Welcome to today's Explainer. We're launching a dark investigation into one of history's absolute weirdest, most perplexing unsolved anomalies. We are going back over 500 years to an event that defies logic, totally challenges modern medicine, and literally leaves historians debating to this very day. This is file number 024, The Dancing Plague. Okay, so picture this. It's July 1518. We're right in the middle of the city of Strasbourg. The cobblestone streets are bustling, the summer heat is rising, and everything just seems entirely ordinary. But the normalcy of this medieval city is about to be completely shattered by an event so strange it honestly sounds like absolute fiction.
The story begins with just a single individual, a woman known to history as Frau Trophia. She simply walks into the streets of Strasbourg. Now, keep in mind, there's no grand celebration happening here. There's no festival, no holiday, and absolutely no obvious reason for what she does next.
She just starts dancing. And the absolutely chilling reality of this moment is that she doesn't stop. She simply keeps dancing. Hours pass, the sun sets, the sun comes back up, and she continues these frantic movements. It's this bizarre, solitary spectacle, well, until it isn't. Okay, let's dive into this timeline to really grasp how incredibly fast this escalated. Day one, it's just Frau Trophea. Hours later, she is still going, no breaks. But then, days later, other people reportedly begin joining her in the street. Soon after, what started as just one woman becomes a staggering phenomenon. Dozens are caught up in it, and some historical accounts claim that eventually hundreds of people became involved, literally dancing for hours and even days on end, and nobody knew how to stop it. The authorities were utterly baffled. And their response? Completely counterintuitive at first. Their initial reaction was this belief that the strange behavior just needed to sort of run its course. So believe it or not, they actually created dedicated dance spaces and brought in professional musicians thinking that, dancing it out would cure them. But of course, the phenomenon only got worse. This led to an eventual panic reversal. They suddenly banned all music, shut down the dance halls, and forcibly moved the exhausted dancers to religious sites for spiritual intervention. Which brings us to the core mystery of this entire case file. What had actually caused it? How does a whole crowd of people just lose control of their own bodies in the middle of the street? Historians and scientists have debated this for more than 5 centuries now, treating it as the ultimate historical cold case. Let's look at the major theories. The first major theory that's fascinated researchers for a long time is biological: ergot poisoning. So ergot is a naturally occurring fungus that grows on grains like rye, and if you ingest it, it can produce incredibly serious neurological symptoms. At first glance, a batch of contaminated grain making its way into the city's bread supply, that sounds like a highly convincing, totally logical suspect for this erratic behavior.
So the crucial point is, the ergot theory actually has some major holes. When you look really closely at modern medical science, the symptoms associated with ergot poisoning just don't perfectly match the historical descriptions of the dancing. Furthermore, researchers point out that a foodborne poisoning outbreak wouldn't neatly explain the specific way this phenomenon reportedly spread from person to person through the population.
Right. So, if it wasn't poisoned, maybe the trigger was psychological. We really have to consider the environmental stressors crushing the people of Strasbourg back in 1518. We're talking extreme poverty, rampant disease, severe food shortages, widespread religious anxiety, and intense social stress. These people were living in an absolute pressure cooker of despair. And this immense pressure leads us to our next key concept: mass psychogenic illness. Now, this is a recognized psychological phenomenon where altered states or specific human behaviors spread super rapidly through a cohesive community. Basically, it suggests that extreme psychological pressure produced a very real physical phenomenon. The dancers weren't faking it at all. They were experiencing a profound collective break caused by their environment. And this brilliantly illustrates the idea of social contagion. Just imagine being a highly stressed, literally starving citizen of Strasbourg. You look out and see someone behaving in this extraordinary, uncontrollable way. Then another person joins. Then another. The behavior spreads like a wildfire. It doesn't require anything supernatural, and it doesn't mean anyone is consciously choosing to behave strangely. It's essentially a chain reaction of the human mind under extreme duress. But, even if we accept mass psychogenic illness, we are still left with the strangest question of the entire explainer. Why dancing? If they were suffering from unbearable stress, why didn't they riot, or sleep, or just weep?
Why did their collective trauma manifest specifically as this uncontrollable, exhausting dance?
To understand that, we really have to look at the medieval cultural context. At the time, dance held deep religious and social meanings. The population also possessed a terrifyingly strong belief in supernatural forces and religious punishment. More specifically, there were local stories and myths of certain saints who could supposedly curse people to dance as a form of divine retribution. So it's highly possible that these existing cultural beliefs uniquely shaped the exact way these citizens unconsciously expressed their extreme distress.
Let's move to the next piece of the puzzle and see how this builds into the biggest flaw in solving this cold case. We call it the evidence problem. Because as compelling as the psychological and biological theories are, investigators today are hitting a massive brick wall.
Because the historical record itself is highly unreliable. We have missing evidence across the board. Obviously, we have no modern medical records from 1518. There's zero video documentation to show us what the dancing actually looked like. Honestly, even the exact number of participants is entirely unknown. And to make matters worse, popular modern retellings of the dancing plague often heavily exaggerate details, or they repeat sensational claims that simply aren't firmly established in the surviving texts. We have to constantly separate hard fact from centuries of popular speculation.
So, because of these massive gaps in the historical record, we cannot simply take the modern, dramatized retellings at face value. The mystery we're trying to solve kind of shifts. It's no longer just a question of why did hundreds of people dance.
The true underlying historical mystery is this. What actually happened in Strasbourg in 1518? Perhaps it was extreme psychological stress. Perhaps environmental factors or an unknown illness played a role. Or perhaps, actually, multiple factors combined in a perfect storm. What we do know for an absolute fact is that the people of Strasbourg experienced something strange enough and disruptive enough to be permanently recorded in their city's history.
But because we literally cannot travel back 5 centuries to interview Frau Trafia or medically examine those crowds, the absolute truth remains totally out of reach. The cobblestone streets of Strasbourg are going to keep their secret. File 024 remains open.
So I leave you with this final thought to ponder. Between disease, poison, psychological stress, and social contagion, which do you believe is responsible? Or was it something else entirely? Something about the human condition that we still don't fully understand today. Keep questioning the history you're told, and until our next explainer, stay curious.